Hi everyone, today's video is going to be an introduction to polynomials. But first, to understand polynomials, we must understand terms. A term in mathematics is a number, a variable like x or y for example, or a number and variables multiplied together. When a number is on its own, it is called a constant. When a number is being multiplied by a variable, however, it is called a coefficient. When you see something like x over 2, it is actually the product of 1/2 times x. So the coefficient in this case would be 1/2 and the variable would be x. Similarly, in this case, 3x over 2 is the product of 3 over 2 times x. So 3 over 2 would be the coefficient and x would be the variable. Terms are separated by addition or subtraction in an expression. For example, in the expression 3x squared minus 2x plus 7, there are three terms: 3x squared, negative 2x, and positive 7. Each part of the expression separated by a plus or minus sign is a term. A polynomial is an algebraic expression consisting of one or more terms combined through addition and/or subtraction. If a polynomial only has one term, it is called a monomial. If it has two terms, it is a binomial. If it has three terms, it is a trinomial. And if it has more than three terms, we say it is a four-term polynomial or a five-term polynomial, etc. Polynomials are classified in two ways: by the number of terms they have and by their degree. As I mentioned earlier, if a polynomial has one term, it is called a monomial. If it has two terms, it's a binomial. And if it has three, it's a trinomial. The degree of a polynomial, on the other hand, is determined by the term with the highest degree. The degree of a term is the sum of the exponents on the variables in a term. For example, in the term 5x to the 4, there is only one variable, x, and it's to the power of 4, so the degree of that term is 4. In 3x squared y, there are two variables, the x squared and the y, so you need to add the exponents of both of these variables. X squared has a degree of 2, and y, which is the same as y to the power of 1, has a degree of 1. So the total degree of this term is 2 plus 1, which equals 3. If a term has no variable, like a number such as 6 for example, its degree is 0. This is because you can think of it as multiplying that number by a variable raised to the power of 0, which does not change the expression at all, since any number raised to the power of 0 is 1. The degree of a polynomial is the highest degree of term in the polynomial. So all you have to do is find the degree of each term, and the highest one is the degree of the polynomial. For example, we have the expression 5x to the 4 plus 3x squared y minus 6. 5x to the power of 4 has a degree of 4. 3x squared y has a degree of 3, and negative 6 has a degree of 0. Since the highest degree of term is 4, 4 is the degree of the polynomial. I just want to reiterate that a polynomial can be classified by 1, the number of terms it has, so monomial, binomial, or trinomial, etc., and by its degree. Now for some examples. So question 1 is, what is the degree of a cubed b squared minus 8a squared times b to the 5? So first off, this is a binomial because we have two terms here. We have a cubed times b squared, and we have negative 8a squared times b to the 5. So to figure out the degree of the binomial, we have to first figure out the degree of each of the terms, and then the highest one is the degree of the polynomial, or binomial in this case. So to find the degree of a term, all we have to do is add the exponents of the variables within the term. So for this first one over here on the left, we have two variables. We have a and b, and when we add their exponents together, the 3 and the 2, we get a total of 5 for the degree of this term. For the term on the right, I'll do that one in purple. We have negative 8a squared times b to the 5. So we have negative 8, which is a number. And remember, when we have a number being multiplied by a variable, we call it a coefficient. So our coefficient is negative 8, but our variables are also a and b. And when we add their exponents together, the 2 and the 5, we get 7. So the degree of the binomial would be the highest degree of a term, which is 7. So 7 is our answer. Our next question is asking us the same thing. It's asking us again to find the degree of yet another binomial. So first, let's identify our terms. We have 2x squared times y to the 4, and then we have a negative sign separating it from our second term, which is negative 2 over 5x times y cubed. So for our first term, we have two variables, x and y. When we add their exponents together, we get a total of 6. For our second term, we also have two variables, x and y, and x is the same thing as x to the power of 1. So we have x to the power of 1 and y to the power of 3. So when we add those two together, we get 4. So the highest degree of a term in this binomial is 6. And so our answer is 6. Question 3 asks us, in a classroom, a student earns 20 points for every homework assignment completed on time and loses 10 points for each assignment turned in late. Let T represent the number of timely submissions and L represent the number of late submissions. Write an expression that represents the student's total points. So that was a bit wordy, so let's break it down a bit. Let's first ask ourselves, what is the question asking us? The question is asking us to write an expression that represents the student's total points. So a student's total points is going to be the amount of points that they earned minus the amount of points that they lost. And if you remember, they earned 20 points for every timely submission, which we're calling T. So that means if we have one timely submission, we get 20 points. If we have two timely submissions, we get 40 points. And if we have 3, we get 60 points. So the number of points earned for timely submissions is just 20 times the number of timely submissions, which we're calling T. And a student loses 10 points for each assignment turned in late. So that means they're losing 10 points for one assignment turned in late. They're losing 20 points for two assignments turned in late. And they're losing 30 points for 3 assignments turned in late. So we can write that as 10 times L, since L is the number of assignments turned in late. So that means a student's total points is going to be 20T for 20 points times the number of timely submissions minus 10L for subtracting 10 points for every late assignment turned in. Let's move on to the next question. A soccer team earns 3 points for a victory and 1 point for a draw, so a tie. Let V represent the number of victories and D represent the number of draws. Which expression can be used to represent the total points? So the total points in this case, or we'll call it TP for short, depends on the number of points earned for a victory and the number of points earned for a draw. Since we're earning points both times, we're going to be adding. Remember, victory is represented as V, and our draws is represented by D. Since we earn 3 points for every victory, that means 3 times the number of victories is equal to our points. So we can write that as 3V. And since we earn 1 point for every draw, our number of draws is just going to be equal to the number of points we get. So it's going to be 1 times D. And since we're multiplying by 1, you could also just write that as D. That means both B and C are correct. And part B is asking us if there is more than one correct answer, which we just determined that there is, and to justify our answer. And our reason is that D and 1D are the same thing because when you're multiplying by 1, you don't change the value of the expression. Question 5 is asking us to solve this expression when m is equal to -2 and when n is equal to +3. So all we have to do is plug in those values in place of their variables and then solve. So instead of m, I'm going to write -2. So we end up with 5 times -2 squared minus 2. And instead of n, I'm going to write 3 plus 8. So the first thing we're going to solve is our exponent. So -2 to the power of 2 is the same thing as -2 times -2, which gives us +4. So we end up with 5 times 4 minus, and 2 times 3 is 6, plus 8. 5 times 4 is equal to 20, minus 6, and also plus 8. 20 plus 8 gives us 28. 28 minus 6 gives us 22. So our answer is 22. Question 6 says, a group of students at Maple Leaf Academy is selling cookie dough to raise funds for their school. The school receives 28% of the total money made from the sales. Write an expression for the total amount of money the school will receive. So it says in the question that the school will receive 28% of the total money made from the sales. So let's call the amount that the school will receive R. So R is going to be equal to 28% of the total money made from sales. So the total money from sales, so we'll call that TS. So 28% is the same thing as 28 over 100. That's what the percent is, per 100. So we can rewrite that 28% as 28 over 100. You can think about it like this. If the school was receiving 100% of the total money made from the sales, the amount they're receiving would just equal the total sales. 100% is equal to 100 over 100, which is equal to 1. And if you remember, 1 times the expression does not change the expression. Therefore, if the school is only receiving 28% of the total money, we can rewrite that 28% as 28 over 100. You might also notice that 28 over 100 is not fully reduced, as 28 and 100 are both multiples of 4. So dividing the numerator and the denominator by 4 gives us 7 over 25. So we can actually rewrite this equation as 7 over 25 times the total sales. Part B says Emma sold 1 cookie dough tub to her friend for $15.50. Calculate the amount the school receives from this sale. So let's go back to our equation. Our equation is R equals 7 over 25 times TS, where R is the amount the school receives and TS is the total money made from the sales. So we want to calculate the amount the school receives from the sale, so we're solving for R. So in order to solve for R, we need to know what TS is so that we can plug it in and solve. So TS is the total amount made from the sale. And it says here that Emma sold one cookie dough tub to her friend for $15.50. So this is the total amount made from the sale before we give the school their cut. So $15.50 is our TS. So now that we know our TS, we can go ahead and plug it in and solve. And when we solve, we get $4.34 as our answer. So since R equals $4.34, the amount the school receives from the sale is $4.34. Part C says the total amount from all cookie dough sales was $3,280.75. Use your expression from Part A to calculate how much the school will receive from this fundraiser. This question is identical to Part B. We have the amount the school receives is equal to 7 over 25 times the total sales. We're still calculating how much the school will receive, so we're still solving for R. The only thing that has changed is our total sales. Instead of $15.50 for selling one tub, we're saying we sold multiple tubs, so our total sales is much bigger. So now all we have to do is plug in our total sales and solve for how much the school is receiving. And don't forget your units. And when we solve, we get $918.61. So that means the total amount that the school will receive from this entire fundraiser is equal to $918.61, which is equal to 28% of this total amount. And that is our last question. So once again, I'd like to thank you guys for watching. Your support means so much to me, and I will see you in the next video.